everybody, and welcome to a different type of tutorial for today. Today we'll be working in Davinci Resolve. As you can see, this is a little bit different than my regular tutorials, but I thought it might be useful to teach you all about color correction in Davinci Resolve and Houdini. In a previous tutorial, I showed you how to build a LUT in Houdini, and I just wanted to build off of that topic in a different program, because I think one of the biggest things you can do as an artist is, color correct your visual effects and make everything look like it belongs in a movie, especially if you're doing, at-home projects. So as you can see, we have something similar in front of me right now. I just did some practice color correction, and this is what happened. And you can see this was the original image, and this was the LUT applied and the color correction done. So let's get started. As you can see, I brought in my images here, and I did that by going to File, Import Media, and then I chose the file that I would like to bring in and color correct. So this is my cover art for my YouTube channel currently, so I thought it might be cool to operate on that. I'm going to be operating on one frame for now. Over here, we're going to be focusing in the color correction window of Davinci Resolve. Over here is the editing window, so you can actually cut your footage, and also if you have a demo reel, this is usually where I build my demo reel too, and if I want to make it look cohesive, then I can add different LUTs and different color corrections and make everything flow together. You can also add audio effects and title generators over here. So it's a very useful program. Over here, if you're a compositor or you ever open up Nuke, you'll notice that one of the features of Nuke is a scopes. Over here is our waveform of our image. So I'll make this a little bit bigger so you can see what's going on. If we were to overlap this with our image up here, it's capturing the data from left to right. So if we look at the waveform, we can see over here it's picking up, there's less intense clipping and highlights on this side of the image. In the middle of the image here, we can see that it's a lot brighter. So you can see a lot of highlights in between here, and a lot more green overall, because everything's green in the image. And over here we've got it fading to a bit of a darker color. There's less saturation, less vibrancy, and you can see that that's detected on the waveform. The parade monitor is your red, green, blue, so you can see the intensity of those channels and where they are in the scene, so left to right once again. The vector scope is interesting because you may see this little lodge here, and basically that's the overall color in the image. You can see an R, a Y, a green, cyan, blue, and magenta over here. These are the colors in your image. So if I was to quickly adjust something like the gain over here, and drag this into the magenta, you can see the image turns a magenta, and this moves towards that color. All of a sudden the image has also become more vibrant and more saturated with color, so that gets pulled out more. If we reset this, it goes back to the center. So there's less vibrancy, and it's more towards almost a white, kind of dulled down color tone. The histogram, once again left to right, is our red, green, blue values of our image, and where they are located, basically kind of the curve of the color as well in the image overall. So keep that in mind when you're color correcting your visual effects. It's always useful to look at. So over here we have our left gamma gain offset. Whenever you're color correcting, it's always important to move from left to right. But if you feel comfortable after a while, you can always look at your gamma and start adjusting that. The gamma is one of the first things that I adjust in my image because of the color space. Gamma and color space are linked very closely together, so if I've imported something and all of a sudden it's the wrong color space, I can either edit it here, or I can go into Davinci Resolve settings, switch it over to the right color space that I've created for my image or my visual effects, and then fix it from there. Or I can go back into Nuke or whichever program I drag my visual effects into and change it from there. Houdini has a default color space, I believe, with a gamma of 6.6. Correct me if I'm wrong, but just keep that in mind when you're bringing your effects into Davinci Resolve. If we go over here, again, it's our GIF Gamma Gain in a different type of setting. So you got the bars instead of the wheels this time. For the color wheels, we've got shadow, midtone, highlight, offset. Again, work from left to right. Already we can see that in our little scope waveform over here, we can see a lot of things are clipping out in the white area of the image. But here down in the darkest area of the image, the only thing that's really doing that, if any, is the blue channel. So let's stick on our color wheels for now. No, actually, I'll explain the curves over here. So the curve of the image is also very important. There's a lot of different menus you can see right here. Again, work from left to right, so work on this one and move over here to saturation versus saturation. Let's play with these first, because I don't think we really need to correct anything with the gamma in this image currently. So here you can clip things out and you can smoosh them together, as you can see in the waveform. Smooshing is not a correct color terminology, but I like using it anyways. It's a fun thing. So you can achieve different effects by dragging these. So you can lower this as well. So if you want to make this image a little bit darker, you could do that. Or a little bit more moodier, you could also do that. Here you've got the hue versus hue, so you can change. If I was to go up here, you could see different colors change in the image. I personally do all my finalized color correction in Davinci Resolve because I think it has a way easier control over where your colors are in your scene than something, let's say, as in Nuke, where you have to do multiple nodes before you actually fix something. I'll be talking about LUTs later, but right now I really want to focus on what you can do by yourself, so you guys can get a very good grasp of Resolve very quickly. So you can see you can adjust, this is hue versus saturation, so by grabbing this color channel, I can increase the saturation of different things. As you can see, our blues are looking really weird right now, so you might want to drag those down. It's very vibrant. Kind of like it though. So this is hue versus luminance. You can adjust the luminance of your color. In this case, I don't think I want to change too much. If you left click, you can delete your little knobs on your curve. Right click. So in this case, I do want my color to remain in my photograph, so luminance versus saturation here. Probably do something like that. If you ever get the chance to meet a colorist, I would highly recommend it. You can learn a lot from them. If you don't know what a colorist is, in the final stages of a movie, there's always a guy who creates the LUT for the movie, or adds the LUTs, or adds the final color correction to the movie itself, and that's what's called a colorist, and they have a very underrated position, so you should probably talk to them if you ever get a chance to meet one. They have some great knowledge on how to use color correction. So already we see some really good results happening. So let's say if I like this, and I want to save it, and I want to keep a screenshot of what I had, just so I can have reference to go back to it later on, or apply it to other things. If you right click on your image, you'll see a grab still. So you can grab that still, and it will be saved in your gallery over here. So as you can see, I was progressively changing my color correction, and I created a bunch of different ones, but currently this is ours. But yeah, that's where it will be stored. So let's say if we wanted to look at our original image. This is our original image, and this is with color correction. There's a huge difference, right? You just sometimes don't always want to change the hue of your photo, but in this case, I kind of like it. I think it looks kind of creepy, kind of science fiction-y. And you can see the scopes have been changing earlier on. Now I think I'm going to fix, we'll go over here to our list and gain and gamma and offset and see if anything needs to be changed here. I don't think that it needs to be in this case, but we'll see what happens. Here we could rotate this back to green if we really wanted to. We could add more orange to it. I think I'm going to jump over here to our highlights. As we can see, our highlights are still kind of clipping and looking kind of weird. So if we lower these, we should see something start to happen. So you may notice if we push our highlights back up and we keep our eyes on, let's say, this bobble here, you notice it's very detailed. And if we push this down, you can notice that some detail is lost in our image now, which is very important to note if you ever do color correction, because you don't want to clamp everything down, make it look good, and realize half the data is missing from your image. That's not good. So you need to adjust it in a way that it looks natural, but also you can retain that knowledge in your image. So here I kind of like that a little bit. Let's look at our midtone. You can see where the midtone is in the scope and what you're adjusting. So if we go over here to this menu, this is our blur, sharpening, and our mist tools. I really like working with these. I think Davinci Resolve has gotten some great tools. You can already see like what we're working with right over here. We're going to touch those later on. I think we're going to move on to something different because I don't want to touch this and screw this up any further. I think I might adjust my blue channels because you can see over here it's looking a little bit unnatural with the blue tones. So we'll fix that in a sec. Probably gonna drag. I think I might create another node because I don't want to make too many changes to my image, and I want to preserve the ones that I have already made. So you may, if you make this bigger here, this is what the default setup space in Davinci Resolve would actually look like, but I was working in the widescreen form of it. If you go over to your nodes and you right click, this little menu will pop up. You can go to add node and add a bunch of different nodes that we're not going to talk about right now. If we go to the correction node, we can add it into here. We can zoom out and then make a different change on top of our image. What's going on? It's disabled for some reason. There we go. Accidentally disabled the node. Don't do that. That's bad. So we'll fix our kind of blue bobbles over here. One other thing you can do, you can go to the sampler here and you can select that color and you can modify it if you'd like. Go to H. Where's my highlight mode, bro? You can select that color and we can go to our wheel and probably change only that color if we feel like it. So you can see the little changes happening. So now I think it's a good idea, now that we've created a mask here, to create another node and then add a LUT onto this. So let's go to our LUTs up here. Davinci. Cool. Just didn't want to appear for me for some reason. So we'll zoom out a bit so you can see what's going on. I'll make this a little bit bigger. Okay, we'll keep that like that for now. So Davinci Resolve comes with a bunch of different free LUTs that you can use. Won't go into all of them, but I'll let you see what they can do to your effects. Down here, these Ridley Scott ones, I downloaded off the internet. So they won't actually be in there. But you can scroll through, and you can see different LUTs being applied. And you can see a preview of how they would appear onto your image. I want to know why this isn't actually working. There we go. That's way better. You can see as you're applying your LUT, it changes your scopes or your waveforms of your images of what. As you can see, when you're applying your LUTs, it's also changing the scope or your waveform as well. So in this case, I don't think I really want something that's really washed out. I want something to preserve the color changes that I've already made. And I want something that looks kind of cool. One cool thing you might recognize after a while with working with LUTs is that you'll be able to look at a movie and go, I think I know how they kind of approached that LUT or what they kind of used, which is something that I recognized when I'm working on a movie recently. It's like, that orange looks weird. But yeah, we'll get to that later. I'm kind of leaning towards this one because it's preserving our color, but it is making everything darker, which I'm kind of not a fan of. I might star this LUT so I can come back to it. Again, this is very image dependent. If you have, most likely your effects are not going to look like mine. So you can probably put whichever one you feel like on yours. I picked out about 7, so we'll scroll through all of them. I think this one's a little bit too bright. You can see this one's very muted. And I just want you guys to look at the way the waveform is changing on the image once this LUT is applied. I kind of like this one because it's keeping the vibrancy of our orange little strands there. But if we take it away, you can see that ours is very kind of almost dull and very boring. But if we look at something like this, it has that orangey kind of feel, but it's also darkened out our areas of our image. So I might go with this one. If you right click on your LUT that you'd like to apply to your image, you can go to apply LUT to current node. And that will make the changes of your image. So if we rotate back to our original, this is what it looked like. And this is what this looks like now. So you can see some big differences in the waveform. I think what changed for the better. I think there's a few highlights we could definitely change. So now that now that we have our LUT, we're going to work after the LUT, which is also important in visual effects or color correction. So if we go here, I still am pretty unhappy with those blues. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to select that blue, go over here, and probably change that color to something a little bit less in my face-ish. You can see the bubbles that we're grabbing. So that's always good. So now, as I mentioned earlier, I think I was a bit unhappy of how sharp this looked as well. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to add a node. I'm going to add a corrector. I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to go adjust my blur and my sharpening radius. So I'm going to reset that, and I'm going to probably add a few gradients of where I would like things blurred. This is a very basic color correction. I'm not a compositor, I'm a Houdini effects artist. Keep that in mind while watching this. So if we blur that, you can see some changes start to happen. Now I'm not fully in love with that, so I'm going to go find a good center. And we're going to blur our image how we see fit. Suddenly the rest of our image looks a little bit too sharp, or maybe not sharp enough. So what we can do now, grab this, I'm going to switch over to my mist controls. So when you adjust mist, you can see something happen in your waveform thing. It's blurring everything out. It's almost adding a blur to your mist, on top of your mist. And it's mixing everything together, which is kind of cool. So once again, I think we've made some progress on this image. I kind of like it. There's things we could do better, especially with that blue. I almost think that it has too much red now. So we could actually go back to our first node where we made those changes. Jump out. Go to our curves. I think we adjusted it here. Probably push that a bit downwards so it's not as vibrant, but it's still there. So I like that, and I think we're pretty happy with our result. And thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. My name is Kate. I'll see you in the next video. Happy holidays, everybody. Bye.